Somewhere in the Sahara, behind dunes that have buried entire trade routes and swallowed entire armies, there's supposed to be a city. White as a dove, gates carved with a bird holding a key in its beak, a sleeping king and queen inside, surrounded by more gold than anyone could ever carry out in one trip. For 700 years, people have gone looking for it. And for 700 years, the desert has politely declined to show them the way. This is Zerzura, the Sahara's most famous snow show, and it has lured adventurers for centuries. The legend begins in 1481, when a man stumbled into Benghazi, half dead and demanding to see the emir. His name was Hamid Kela, and he had a story. He'd been driving camels from the Nile toward the oasis of Dakhla and Karga, when a sandstorm hit so violently it killed everyone in his caravan except him. He survived by sheltering under his dead camel. When the wind finally dropped, the landscape had changed so completely he didn't recognize it, and he was dying of thirst when a group of strangers found him. Now, these weren't ordinary desert dwellers either. They were tall, fair-haired, blue-eyed, and carried straight swords instead of curved Arab scimitar. They led him through a valley between two mountains to a city with a bird carved over its gate, white houses, palm trees, springs, pools where fair-skinned women and children bathed. These people called themselves the El Suri. They spoke a strange dialect of Arabic, kept no mosques, and the women wore no veils. Kela figured they weren't Muslim, and they treated him with real kindness. He, though, repaid that kindness by stealing a ruby ring and fleeing in the night. When he turned up in Benghazi months later, the emir got really suspicious, had him searched, found the ring, and ordered his hands cut off for theft. The emir believed the story enough to send his own men out looking for Zerzura, and the men never found it. A few decades later came the Kitab-Al-Kanuz, the Book of Hidden Treasures, or Book of Hidden Pearls, a 15th century Arabic manuscript of unknown authorship that lists over 400 treasure sites across Egypt, complete with the incantations needed to ward off the spirits guarding them. Buried in it is Zerzura, a white city guarded by black giants, a city full of riches, its gate locked, a hidden key in a carved bird's beak, and inside, a king and queen asleep on their thrones. The instructions are oddly specific about etiquette. Take the treasure, the text warns, but do not go near the sleeping royals. When this story crept into the minds of explorers, they wasted no time to go looking for the treasure in the lost white city of Zerzura. One such explorer was Ralph Bagnold, a British Army officer obsessed with desert driving, who spent the late 1920s and early 30s hammering Ford trucks across the Libyan desert, on the lookout for Zerzura, and he looked for years. Zerzura, though, never showed up for Bagnold. So, after years of searching, Bagnold decided Zerzura wasn't a place at all, but a wish oasis. Something the desert lets you imagine into existence precisely because you can't get into it. But not everybody agreed. One other man, Count Laszlo Almazy, the real-life inspiration for The English Patient, believed it was hiding in the Gilf Kebir, a sandstone plateau roughly the size of Puerto Rico. So, in 1932, he flew out into the desert on a borrowed biplane. From up in the air, Almazy spotted something that genuinely got his heart racing: hidden valleys, places no one has ever seen before, right there in the Gilf Kebir. A year later, a ground expedition team landed on two of those hidden valleys, Wadi Abd el-Malik and Wadi Hamra. Almazy himself reached a third valley, the Wadi Tal. But here was the thing: Almazy never found a city. What he did find at a place called Wadi Sura was a shallow cave wall covered in paintings, small ochre figures with their limbs splayed as if mid-swim, alongside giraffes and hippos. He called it the Cave of Swimmers, and it turned out to be several thousands of years old, painted during the African humid period when the Sahara wasn't a desert at all, but savanna laced with rivers and lakes. So, What exactly is Zerzura? Was it even a real place? And that is where the theories come in. Some people agree with Ralph Bagnold, the man who spent years looking for Zerzura and came back with nothing, and say Zerzura might have been Wish Oasis. Not a lie, not a hoax, just an idea the Desert Lets You project onto any blank space on the map, because nobody can prove you wrong about a place nobody's been. Others believe it was a modest oasis that time and shifting dunes erased from the map. Even science backs that theory up, with enough evidence to say that back in the African humid period, the climate genuinely turned the Sahara green for thousands of years. Many agree with a storytelling angle. The local Bedouin and Tuareg oral traditions kept the stories of Zerzura breathing in their own way, full of travelers who set off and never returned, and silent guardians, spirits and jinn set to bar the way to anyone unworthy. Maybe it was just a campfire story that went a little too viral. Some, though, like Almazi himself, believe in a completely different idea. The way they see it, Zerzura was a real place, but it wasn't one place. It was 3 hidden valleys in the Gilf Kabir. And the best part for those theories, the valleys were actually there. Wadi Tal, Wadi Abdul Malik, and Wadi Hamra, real, lush, previously unmapped, were found and tested with boots on the ground. But at the end of the day, no one knows what it really is. Now, Zerzura lives on in novels, in a 1996 Oscar-winning film, and in late-night YouTube rabbit holes waiting to come alive. Whether it was a real city, a misremembered oasis, or just a very good story with excellent staying power, one thing's certain: nobody's found it yet. And the desert, it's still not telling. So here we are at the end, and we have a question for you. What's your verdict on Zerzura? Would you rule it as a myth or entirely something else? Do tell us in the comments. And while you're at it, hit like and smash that subscribe button to never miss a mystery only on Myztora.